Hello everyone and welcome back to my monthly segment, Full Moon News. Here I go into a few gaming news stories from the past month that are angry and or strange to go along with the full moon. This month has been quite interesting, to say the least. While I normally am not fond of having politics infused into the gaming scene, apparently the world wholeheartedly disagrees with me. So, let us all prepare to shake our heads and wonder just what happened as I cover the oddities that belong in this section. Our first story most definitely goes into the crazy sort of category, but not because of the person who started it, but the reaction from it. It also comes out of Poland, which is a bit odd as the only game-related stuff I've seen from them is The Witcher, and they love it there, which is awesome. A big gaming conference held in Poland called the Game Industry Conference, wow, talk about on the nose, became the stage for a bunch of complaints. Why? Well, because a person who ran their social media account called women pretty. Eveline Wisnerowicz, yeah, I'm butchering that, I'm sure. Anyway, she's a game dev herself, and she tweeted, "Women in Games is about to start. Game dev ladies, join us and meet the pretty side of game dev," with a link to the event guide and the hashtag Women in Games at the end. This made a lot of people quite angry because apparently saying women in game development are pretty is sexist somehow. I have to wonder if the people who are angry know anything about advertising or even writing in general. When trying to draw people, using flowery and complimentary language is a basic tactic. Most people even seem to assume that the tweet was made by a man, telling them to shut the hell up and listen to the female game devs. It was also mentioned that, quote, "beauty has nothing to do with our professional accomplishments." I agree with that, but again, appealing language doesn't hurt. There are two facts I believe people here need to face. The first is that those who are thought to be attractive generally will do a bit better. Granted, game development is more behind-the-scenes work, so not as much there, but still, it's not going to hurt you. And two, people like being complimented. How do you attract people to your event? Complimenting them. So I saw this tweet mostly as, "Hey women, you're cool, come to this event," within the 140 character limit that Twitter has. Pretty is just a word that you will generally associate with feminine things, whether you mean to or not. It's not an insult by any stretch. However, if the people getting angry at this were going to take it as an insult, it seems to me they're believing the wrong party is insulted. What I mean by this is saying women are pretty can possibly give the impression that men are not and cannot be pretty. That's potentially insulting to various men. See, the people who say she's being sexist will say, "We're feminists, we want gender equality," which is fair enough. But if they truly were for gender equality, they might bring up, "Hey, men could be pretty too." So basically an argument could be made that the statement is sexist, but against men. Just a bit of food for thought. Sadly, instead of correcting people and saying, "Hey, this was made by a woman who is in game development," the conference gave an apology along with firing her. The apology is from the head of the conference, who calls the tweet unacceptable, disrespectful, and sexist. Oh, come on. She didn't say, "Hey, let's all dress up in bikinis while we talk about game development while we beg men to take our pathetic skills seriously." Now that would be unacceptable, disrespectful, and sexist. It also says how they aim for inclusivity and will aim to make this conference even more inclusive in the future. Translation: more women and non-whites regardless of merit. Don't get me wrong, I am happy to see more women in game development. I wanted to be a graphic artist for games for a long time and would still love to do it. That or be a writer for games. As it stands though, gaming news and reviews will have to do. In the past, I was told women weren't really welcome in the gaming world, and how a woman has to work twice as hard, etc. So I am absolutely happy to have other women in this world. But I think that women shouldn't be included simply for being women. Jobs like this should be purely merit-based. Your life experiences mean nothing to me. I want someone skilled to do the job. Okay, have I lost half my subscriber base yet? We'll see, I guess. Anyway, moving right along. Now then, our next story, and it's a biggie. I'll try my best to explain this both with detail, but also as concisely as I can. The second story is about the total insanity surrounding Neogaf. For those who don't know, Neogaf is a forum site that was meant to be for gamers, gaming press, and developers. However, during the whole Gamergate mess a few years ago, it got very hostile to anyone who questioned that Gamergate was pure evil. It turned to a very SJW-like echo chamber. This got so extreme that they even banned popular YouTuber and all-around nice guy, Boogie2988, from their site. That's how crazy the hatred for anyone who even questioned the supposed evils of Gamergate, or any other ultra-left talking point. Despite this, or perhaps because of it, given how a lot of gaming press are very far left themselves, Neogaf was one of the most popular gaming websites out there, and even very popular as a website in general. So, you would think a popular site beloved by professionals in gaming and constantly going on about how they will tolerate no racism, sexism, or even general misogyny would have very principled people running it, right? Well, apparently that's not so much the case. The first thing that happened with a mod there, at least that I know of, was that he got caught for having child porn. Not exactly a bastion of morality there. He didn't cause what has now become Neogaf's complete downfall, though. Now, that honor goes to Tyler Malka, the head of Neogaf himself. Despite Tyler's hatred of Gamergate, who he and others of his ilk deemed to be about harassing women in the gaming industry, he has been accused of groping one woman and sexually propositioning another. This came out when a woman posted on Facebook her own tale of sexual harassment/assault, getting in on the #MeToo hashtag that got started in the aftermath of the Harvey Weinstein debacle. Her story basically goes that she and this man, who she doesn't name, were good friends and they traveled to New Orleans together. They were both drinking and she started to feel sick. She proceeded to go to her hotel room and take a shower. However, her male friend decided to follow her to the hotel room. I'm unclear whether or not they were sharing a room, it kind of sounds like it. He also followed her into the shower. He came up behind her, fully naked, and tried to get sexual with her. She refused him, saying how she had a boyfriend and didn't want to cheat. He took her refusal, but apparently was rude and ignored her the whole rest of the trip. She was disturbed by this, but didn't confront him or report this to anyone. She also said she didn't want to tell her boyfriend because she was afraid it would cause problems with their relationship. Her reasoning was also that this man was very powerful and influential, and so she was afraid she'd really have no chance against him. People replied to the post, telling her that she should give up this man's name because he deserves to be punished. She sort of caved into the pressure and replied to this with, "Screw it, Google Evilore." Evilore being Tyler's alias on Neogaf. There's also one more story that has come out about Tyler's treatment of women, and this one is also theoretically the antithesis of what the feminist crowd usually stands for. Tyler and a friend of his went to Spain. They were in a bar, and his friend was translating for him. A woman came up to them, wanting to know who Tyler was, and such like that. The translating friend told her, and she responds with, "Oh, I'm going to get him to buy me a drink." Okay, ugh. Anyway, she proceeds to flirt with him, and do just that. Instead of just a drink, though, the woman got her butt grabbed by Tyler aggressively. She then left, leaving the drink, upset by that, naturally. The friend asked Tyler what happened, and Tyler replied, "I was going to show her who was in charge, so I grabbed her ass." Now, I don't think the woman was right to be a gold digger type who wanted to get free drinks, but I also believe that Tyler went way too far. He should have just refused her, but no, instead he grabs her in order to show his quote-unquote dominance. So, naturally, after all these stories, Neogaf gets flooded with views and people want to know what's going on, if this stuff is true, etc. It got so bad that the site actually got shut down due to all the traffic. Before I said that the site was very popular and got tons of views, so they should be able to handle tons of traffic. See, I mentioned that fact to further illustrate just how huge this all got. So many people saw this that it shut a huge website down due to the server load. The site then said it was going to do maintenance. Yeah, a huge site like this doing sudden unscheduled maintenance for about 2 whole days. That doesn't sound fishy at all. A theory, and one I can understand, is that the mods and maybe Tyler himself spent that time scrubbing the site and/or locking things down. Tyler released a statement after this maintenance saying that the claims are not true. He admits to having history with the woman that he talked to his other mods about. He also says there are witnesses and evidence to corroborate that the claims are false. How are there witnesses when it was in a hotel room with just the two of you? I don't believe hotels have security cameras inside the rooms. So that's a bit weird. He also goes on to say how many of the staff and mods have resigned due to harassment. Now, it is indeed true that most of the mods and staff are gone, but I do wonder how much of it was harassment and how much of it was them not wanting to associate with him specifically. Oh, and after Tyler's statement, there was apparently a talk he had with a reporter. He refers to the incident as totally harmonious and consensual. So he's obviously lying. 1 minute, nothing happened, and now it was consensual. So, yeah, this is a big mess. But the fate of the site seems to be pretty much decided. It's basically a zombie. It still exists, but no one new wants to go near it, and many people are happy about that. I personally don't care because it sounded pretty lame to me, and I'm not a forum type nowadays. But there you have it. There is one last thing I'd like to say, though, before I end this story. The Facebook post and the story are just allegations. Tyler has not been convicted, and I don't believe there have been any legal charges set against him. So legally, he's fine. It's his reputation that's screwed now. I will admit that I have a bit of skepticism about the claim. After some digging, I learned that the woman went to New Orleans with Tyler in April. They since stayed in contact and even had sex once, according to Tyler anyway. Their association oddly did not end until some sort of big blow-up at E3. Now, E3 is in June. So she stayed friends with, and maybe even slept with, a man whom she claims propositioned her, then ignored her and treated her badly in a city he drove her to. So, either the claim is false, or there is something seriously wrong with this person. Why would you stay friends with someone who did that to you? It apparently caused her so much turmoil as to cause friction with her boyfriend and cause them to break up. And it apparently bothered her enough to make this post. So why? I just don't fully understand that, and as someone with a bit of experience in this matter, her being friends with someone who did that to her makes little sense to me. Really, it makes no sense to me. I'm guessing she did it for professional reasons. He gave her connections, helped her career, etc., but is that really worth it? I don't know if that'd be worth it to me, but that's just my opinion. It's a messed up state of affairs for sure, but judging from how bad Neogaf seemed to be, I'm not really too upset about it being gone. And now we move on to our last story, and while it does have to do with mental health and the like, it's actually positive. I saved this for last because I figured we'd need it after the Neogaf thing. So, a while back, psychologists and scientists were trying to create something called internet gaming disorder, which is basically being extremely addicted to gaming. However, according to a study, it turns out that gaming may not be addictive after all, at least not in any way that is different to things like food, TV, drugs, etc. This started with the attempt to put internet gaming disorder into the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorder, or as most call it, the DSM-5. As such, it was given certain criteria to have the symptoms, which were preoccupation or obsession with games, withdrawal symptoms when not playing games, a buildup of tolerance, so more gaming time is needed to feel satisfied, attempts to stop playing have failed, no interest in other activities, continued overuse even though negative impacts are understood, lying about time spent gaming, using games as a way to relieve anxiety or guilt, and lastly, careers, opportunities, or relationships being jeopardized because of games. This all sounds like common addiction. You can replace games with just about anything else, and it would sound like a serious problem. However, a study from Cardiff University says it might not be possible to be truly addicted to games. The idea partially being that addiction is the wrong way to put it. For the study, the researchers asked a little over 2,000 people who played games regularly, who were over the age of 18, to fill out a questionnaire about their health and lifestyle. Shockingly, it turns out that only 9 of these people fit the set criteria for internet gaming disorder. And then, when they were questioned again 6 months later, none of them fit the criteria at all. There were 3 people who fit some of the points for the disorder, but it was not causing any stress or real problems. A researcher said that this so-called disorder is something that is hard to gauge as far as how worthy of funding it is, especially in comparison to something like drugs, which have provable chemical interactions with the brain. Basically, it was concluded that gaming has become like just about any other leisure activity. Yes, sometimes people can go overboard, and it's often true that someone who does so is unhappy with other areas of their life. However, this seems to say that gaming does not cause the same chemical interactions as drugs. One thing to note, though, is that this is just one study, and that by no means is the final conclusion on the matter. But I think it's a positive step in the right direction for helping people to understand these things. The full article talking about the study in further detail is linked in the description. Where I fall on this, as someone who studies psychology and also spends a lot of time gaming, is that addiction is something that is largely based on the personality of the person involved. Some people have addictive personalities, so that if they find something they really like, they'll get hooked on it. Yes, drugs do give chemical reactions in the brain that help fuel this, such as making you feel good or helping you in some other way. However, unless a drug creates a true dependency wherein you have to take it regularly or bad things will start happening, such as psychological medications and opiates, most addiction comes down to the psychology of the person involved. If you're someone who easily gets hooked on things that you love to the expense of other things, there's probably a reason, but it's not the thing you're addicted to, it's your own behavior. Anyway, this is nice to show those people who get onto their games are evil high horse. Like I said, it's not totally conclusive, but it's a tiny bit of good news, I think. And we all need that from time to time, especially now. And that'll do it for this month's edition of Full Moon News. If you liked the video, feel free to hit the like button and maybe subscribe to the channel too. If you want to support me and my content, perhaps consider a small donation via PayPal. It would be more appreciated than you could possibly know, especially now. And lastly, feel free to leave comments or contact me in other ways with any feedback or gaming news stories that you'd like to see me cover next month. Thank you all for watching and have a good day.